Good morning and welcome to Sunday Square Off. I'm Bram Resnick. We're just 2 days away from Tuesday's special election for mayor of the nation's fifth largest city. The fight for Phoenix's top job has been bitter, expensive, and so long. On today's show, we break down the race between former council members Kate Gallego and Daniel Valenzuela, the drama, the money, and the challenges for Phoenix's next mayor. Plus, it's time to start paying attention to the Ducey Court. The governor could put his stamp on Arizona's Supreme Court and our way of life for years to come. Then Martha McSally's stunning revelation. She was raped by a superior in the Air Force. Her riveting story and what the Air Force has to say. But we start with the race for Phoenix mayor. Joining us this morning, Jessica Boehm, Phoenix City Hall reporter, who's been covering the race for what seems like forever. Yes. And Chad Campbell, former House Minority Leader, now Democratic consultant at Strategies 360. And to be clear, you have not taken any sides in this campaign.
The last person in Phoenix not to take a side, yes.
And that is why you are here today. So the runoff election is Tuesday required because neither candidate got more than 50% of the vote back in November. Kate Gallego got 45 to 26 for Danny Valenzuela. So Jessica Boehm, just kind of tell us how we got here, the short story.
Well, it all started 18 months ago in a different lifetime when both of the candidates back in October 2017 announced they were running. That's when former Mayor Greg Stanton announced he was going to run for Congress. So in the next couple weeks, both Kate Gallego, Daniel Valenzuela announced. We also had two other candidates hop in. We had a Libertarian candidate, a Republican candidate. In November, we had an election. With four candidates, it's hard to get that 50% plus one vote margin to trigger to not have to have a recall. Or a recall.
Runoff. I know.
And I have a lot going on right now.
Yeah.
And so for that, now we are in March, and we're going to have a runoff election with these two last candidates.
Okay, and we've never really seen a race like this. The money, the time frame, all that. What makes this unpredictable?
And I think that's what makes it so hard to figure out what's going to happen on Tuesday. But I've always said, even though Kate had a very big margin of victory in that primary, you have a very different electorate now in a March election. It goes back to kind of the city voter mindset. It's not part of the blue wave that happened last November. So, Danny's calculation, I think, was always, could he capture those other voters that went to Moses or went to the Libertarian candidate, bring them to his side, and then chip away a little bit into Kate's base? That was his pathway to victory. It remains to be seen if he's done that. But we've definitely seen that's been his strategy since the primary election.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. But what about the surge in women voters in November? Can Kate gain from that in March?
I mean, we'll see. We're not going to have as big of turnout. The last several March elections, which granted were one council district elections, they were much different elections than the one we're seeing, but you're going to see between 15 and 20% voter turnout. I mean, maybe she'll be able to capture the women who do vote, but you're talking about a completely different universe of voters.
Okay, you've covered these candidates closely. I heard many debates. Give us the thumbnail. What do they each stand for?
Oh, so...
Do they know?
So, Daniel comes from a background of being a firefighter. He has definitely, in the last several months, that has been his priority to say, I am the public safety candidate. I will prioritize public safety more than my opponent. That's really like his game plan right now.
That's his thing?
That's his thing.
Yep.
Kate is kind of, I would say, the new wave of the Progressive Party, where Daniel's more of the establishment Democrat. So she is, I would say, a little bit more progressive. She's had endorsements from the more progressive candidates. That's kind of their big distinguishing factor.
Okay, but Danny, the Democrat, his campaign manager had to get on the phone to me to remind me the other night that he is still a registered Democrat, even though there are calls being put out there by people of Team Valenzuela with the campaign saying he's a Republican. He's surrounded himself with Republicans. He's getting a lot of Republican money.
And again,
but it's a nonpartisan race.
Well, it's nonpartisan, let's keep that in mind, technically speaking, but I don't know if that exists any longer in politics today. I haven't heard the call itself. I've seen some of the reports out there about it. If they're saying he's a Republican voters, that's a problematic strategy right there, problematic tactic. But it doesn't surprise me that Valenzuela is going after the Republican vote with his public safety background. You know, he had to go down that pathway to have any chance of pulling off a kind of come from behind or comeback victory on Tuesday. And it's not new. I mean, people have been doing this for a long time in city politics. Even though we all say it's nonpartisan.
Have you ever seen a pivot like this?
But this has been a huge pivot, and it's taken it to a new level. But again, it shows you that gap that Kate had in that first primary
19
round
points.
Was huge. And so I think Valenzuela had to just lay it all on the table and go all in, and he's doing it, so we'll see what happens now.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll have to see what happens, because it'll be interesting to see whether the Republican voters decide to turn out and vote for him, or if they just stay home.
And the bigger thing, too, and I said this since the beginning, it's interesting that you have the two top candidates for mayor are coming from two of the lowest performing city council districts in the city. So how do those other districts, especially those top four, Thelda Williams, Jim Waring, Sal DeCiccio, Deb Stark, those districts, how do they perceive these candidates? They really don't know, probably don't know them even as well as they know their own council members. Where do they go? And those are more conservative districts.
That's
so
a very, repeat, that's Sal DeCiccio's district, one of the best performing districts. Jim Waring's district,
that district right now is the highest performing turnout district in the city in this election so far.
In ballot returns.
In ballot returns to this point, yes.
And important to note that of those four council members you mentioned, only Deb Stark has come out and supported anyone, and she is supporting Daniel.
Yep.
The rest of them are sitting on the sideline.
Yeah, so it's going to be a fascinating Tuesday.
That's okay.
A
lot more to talk about. The money, we haven't gotten there yet. When we come back, the perils that lie ahead for the next mayor. Plus, Governor Ducey's putting his stamp on Arizona's Supreme Court for years to come. Will his justices become an issue in future elections? And Arizona Senator Martha McSally stuns a Senate hearing by revealing she was raped when she served in the Air Force. We'll hear McSally's dramatic testimony and the Air Force response. Stay with us.